about half
Okay,
in the congregation
so here we go.
came from these crazy liberal backgrounds in the 60s.
Okay, can you see this, Bruce?
Yep.
Hold on. Here we go.
So we went. I wasn't done.
Okay.
So are you recording? You don't have to record.
No, we're recording. It's okay. Go ahead.
So while we were there, a friend of ours who often watches this class on her own time, she's also a meditator, and she just said, "Here, I have this book for you." And it's one that I used to have years ago and lost track of in my various experiences. And it's actually wonderful. And it's a book called The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. And the subtitle is Mary Magdalene and the Holy Grail. So,
And it's been out maybe 20 years,
yeah.
but it covers the same sort of things we've covered with Mary Magdalene about how she really was the wife of Jesus and they had a kid and she ended up in the south of France and on and on. So,
And there's a lot of interesting, kind of esoteric evidence that she's brought forth from things like the unicorn tapestries, which I adore. They have some of them at the cloisters in New York City, um, and other things which I'm going to say I have enough tangential knowledge of to respect this, but I really want to look into it further to see exactly what she's talking about because a lot of it is new to me, including some tarot symbolism. And there's apparently one branch that's, of course, particularly French tarot that seems to trace the Grail myth, which I wasn't familiar with, and I thought I knew all the decks and all the traditions. So I'm devouring this. So stay tuned.
we'll
You
try and
know,
do a class on this, led by
another
Marjorie.
another bat time and same bat channel to talk about we've really buried the divine feminine in our Western uh, tradition. And it's really a shame. I think we
Yep.
have a lot of scars
Yep, I agree.
from the traditions that evolved out of that schism. And oh, she started out, she grew up in the Catholic Church and, was a scholar there and then was trying to disprove the rumors about this tradition. Um, the some people know the Episcopal bishop named John Spong, an Episcopal bishop who wrote a very positive review of it, and so anyway, she's steeped in it all from a lot of points of view, and she's convinced of it. So I've been reading this since Sunday, and not ready to say more about it than that. But so this is mostly put together by Bart, in other words, but we're gonna continue the threads of the Western esoteric tradition, which a lot of it comes out of Kabbalah and Jung. So I really can't read that. Is that are those links?
Yeah, this is a special feature of now Microsoft screwed up PowerPoint. Anyway, this is just a review of Jung. Yeah, yeah, quite. We've covered this before, so I just put this in here so we'd have a common ground. But Jung was born in 1875 and he died in 1961. And the key thing to keep in mind is he was interested in the psyche and he was intrigued with Freud. And so Freud became his mentor. And they actually created some psychological association, and he became the first president of it with the backing of Freud. And then they had this falling out because Jung felt that Freud kept focusing on sexuality and dreams, and he thought that's only part of the story. There's all these other things which he came to call archetypes that are really the foundation of what Jung viewed as psychoanalysis. And there's other stuff that goes with them, but it's to me, it was just looking at the timeline when they had this falling out was when Jung started to go into his uh, days when he was writing what we now call the Red Book. We had all those paintings that he did that are incredible, and all kinds of uh, writings done in German, Frachter uh, writing, and so forth. And then that took him up to say from 1914 to 1930, he was, working on this, and never wasn't published until 2010, whatever. But then in the he started to get recognized for all of his work there, and because he had this falling out with Freud, he lost something, but now it started to pick back up again. And unfortunately for him, in 1933, there was a large body of Germans that were into psychoanalysis, and so he became head of this basically German psychiatrist professional society, just as Hitler came to power. And
Oh,
he stayed there until 1940. So a lot of people think he sold out to Hitler, but Jung said, no, the only reason I did it was that was where all the psychiatrists were. Okay, they're all members of, and I wanted to, whatever I could do to protect them from Hitler is why I stayed there. Otherwise, I would have quit. And finally, in 1940, he did quit. And then you see after that, he wrote, um, no, there's a number of books that he's written, but he was very active in like funding the Nag Hammadi, the parchments that were found there, and trying to have those
the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Dead Sea Scrolls ended up being they're now actually a lot of them have been scanned in and are available online, so you can actually look at the actual parchment text and so forth. But Jung was behind that, and he also got this other guy. Who was it? That was the German that translated
Oh, right.
the golden. What was it?
And
Flower.
the Golden Flower and the I Ching.
Yeah, in the I Ching, he translated the I Ching into German, and then they translated it into English.
And Jung wrote the forward, or
Right, and so forth. So, and there's still lots of stuff that Jung wrote that has not been published, and some of that is coming out in these videos that we'll take a look at here. So this is what we covered in other classes in other times and places.
I'd like to say, well, we have this the main division between Jung and Freud. I loved Freud when I was young. When I was in college at the New School, I fell in love with the interpretation of dreams. I absolutely adored it. And then later, it started coming out how he had really suppressed evidence that his theories of he only believed in a personal subconscious, whereas Jung believed in the collective unconscious. That was their real division. And Freud felt that all dreams were only about personal, suppressed sexual fantasy content. And he believed that all the accusations by girls and women of sexual abuse were wishful thinking, their own wishful thinking, which is just a criminal betrayal of them. There was a lot of medical evidence in the hospitals that what they were saying was true. And that was you know, it's Victorian Europe. There was a rampant abuse against girls and women, and a lot of serious injury, you know, and let alone injury to their psyches. And it was true. They weren't fantasizing it. It wasn't projection. It wasn't wishful thinking. It was the truth. And in order to protect that lie, he was discounting everything that Jung was saying about the rest of the psyche. And the unconscious isn't only suppressed negative material, the unconscious is also the superconscious. It's just not within our narrow bandwidth of what we're conscious of. So all that information that can come from above through meditation and so on isn't just, you know, our dirty little secrets. It's where art comes from. It's where poetry comes from,
Music, yeah.
music. And, you know, it's where our lives, it's really our life spring. And I believe that's what he celebrated and really encouraged in his patients with their mandala paintings and so on. And that was very healing for them to expand their personal perspective rather than suppressing it to suit these male interpretations of female psychology, which it took me a few years to adjust to this realization. You know, it was really heartbreaking for me. But they do think that there might have been some anti-Semitic tendencies on part of some of Jung's interpretations. I think he really kind of ignored the Kabbalah. He didn't think there was much going on in Jewish mysticism. He said it was like all ancestor worship or something like that, very dismissive once. And they think that was because he hadn't ever been fully psychoanalyzed himself, and neither had Freud, and that was part of his. He had a bit of a father projection toward Freud, and that rebellion was, you know, reflected in those kinds of comments. And most of the medical and psychiatric um, orthodoxy was um, very dominated by the Jewish community. That's true. It was dominated by Freud. And so his rebellion did take on some of that flavor. But, you know, the people I know said if he had been fully psychoanalyzed, they should have done each other. You know, that would have been a good thing. Um, but Freud, before he came to that conclusion, was really insightful and brilliant and compassionate. And I think one of his best books was the interpretation of dreams, and that was life-changing for me. It didn't go far enough, but it was the beginning of it. And you know, the beginners can often only begin. And I do think Jung pushed the envelope quite a bit further and opened new doors. And he allowed the woman who worked under him, Marie Louise von Franz, to really push the envelope even further in her work with fairy tales. And that goes into what Jung said about dreams are personal myths and myths are collective dreams. And that he believed come from the unconscious, which is where the archetypes speak to us in the form of dreams and fantasies and meditation and so on. That the archetypes are speaking through us, but that they have their own pre-existent reality was something, as I've said in previous classes, I didn't really understand when I was first studying him. So that was really the point of departure, was on Jung's, I want to say, discovery or, you know, opinion of the reality of the collective unconscious, which I think we all agree we can see in the work of Joseph Campbell and so on. You know, it's really been confirmed. And you look at art from all kinds of different cultures, they are showing the same archetypes.
So that just to pick up on this, so the the other thing that plays into this that we touched on was Plato and his looking at the shadows in the caves or the forms, which would be another set of words for archetypes that were there that were key templates that were driving everything. And that leads us back to Ron Cowan, who observed that everything is coded with these information blocks that have these algorithms, but the algorithms must contain the archetypes. And what goes with it is that this is everywhere. So we're all collectively, unconsciously connected to one another. And we all have a little piece of this collective unconsciousness, which makes up our soul, is what I think Ron saw. So it's an amazing, set of circumstances. All of these things are just words. There's something there, and we don't know what the right words are yet. But for right now, Ron used information, so we'll stick with that. So then the other stuff here, I'm just going to try and I just put this together just as a backgrounder. Oh yeah, from 1930 to 1957, Jung and Pauli interacted on quantum mechanics and what is reality and what is synchronicity, the synchronicity that Pauli saw. And we've already seen Jung's answer to Job that he wrote, which is the only thing he wrote on religion explicitly. And the book of Job I don't really think it fits into the Old Testament or the Talmud. It's so different. But anyway, so now we have a bunch of videos that I've got here. So I'm going to get out of. Oh wait, I got one more. This is what I wanted to show. This is Jung's archetypes. This is a graphic showing these archetypes.
And he's not saying these are the only ones.
No, this is just a picture that shows kind of quote unquote major archetypes. So they broke it down into 4 categories, and there's 3 subsets in each of the 4 categories. Marjorie, does this mean anything to you?
Yeah, I'm having trouble seeing it.
Well,
but yes.
There's I'm on the left quadrant, caregiver, ruler, and artist. Okay.
The upper left.
Upper left, okay.
Quadrant.
And then the upper right is innocent, sage, and explorer. And then in the bottom right is outlaw, magician. What is that? Hero?
Hero.
Hero. And then in the bottom left is lover, everyman, and can you read it?
No. Well, we have.
These are the things that connect you together. Lover, everyman, and one other. So it just gives you a flavor for how Jung, these are very diverse archetypes that kind of, you would think each of us would have a piece of each of these, and the mixtures determine what makes each of us unique. I think is part of the idea here.
And he believed that this showed in the chart. It's somewhat objective. It's not just how you identify yourself. It's how others identify you, how others perceive you.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do any of these line up with the 12 astrology?
I mean, you could make cases for that, but not in a straightforward way. Not that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. I was just asking. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to get out of this now, and we're just going to go to these. We have a bunch of videos here. So let me Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. Hold on a second. Oh, wait, I forgot one thing. Hold it. I forgot to do the share sound.
So glad we learned about that.
Okay. So let's put in captions and let's just run this a little faster.
Speeds it up. Oh, that's going to be too much.
Let's see how this goes. Here we go. Nope.
Carl Jung explained in 13 Signs your aura is too powerful for most people to handle. If people avoid you, get jealous of you, or feel strangely unsettled in your presence, it's not your attitude, it's your aura. Carl Jung knew that when your inner light becomes too powerful, it doesn't just inspire others, it exposes them. Part 1, what is an aura and why Carl Jung cared about it? Your aura is more than a mystical glow or a colorful field artists depict in spiritual illustrations. In psychology, especially the depth psychology of Carl Jung, your aura can be interpreted as the invisible energy signature you project, consciously or unconsciously, into the world. It's not just about what people see on the surface. It's about what they feel when you're around. And when that aura is powerful, it disturbs others, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're embodying something rare and deeply unsettling, authenticity, the psychological roots of the aura. Carl Jung didn't use the word aura in the traditional spiritual sense, but his concept of the psyche, the unconscious, and the collective unconscious imply that we are not just minds or personalities, but also fields of influence. Jung believed that each person is a complex system of conscious identity, shadow elements, repressed desires, and archetypal energy that belongs to humanity at large. When someone has integrated more of their unconscious material, what Jung called individuation, they exude a presence. This presence is not something they wear like a jacket. It emanates from within them and affects people around them without a word being spoken. That's your aura, the psychological, emotional, and even spiritual weight of your being that enters the room before you say anything. Powerful auras often belong to people who have confronted their shadow, embraced their truth, and stopped seeking approval from others. They have become whole, not perfect. But whole and wholeness disturbs a world addicted to illusion. Why powerful auras disturb people? Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. This quote is central to understanding why your powerful aura causes discomfort. When you walk into a room carrying a high-frequency energy authenticity, emotional depth, radical self-awareness, you act as a mirror. You reflect back to others what they are not confronting in themselves. To someone who is disconnected from their own truth, being around someone who lives their truth is agitating. It reminds them of what they are avoiding. Imagine walking into a room full of people wearing masks, and you're the only one without one. It doesn't matter how kind or quiet you are, your very presence becomes a threat. Why? Because you reveal the artificiality around you without even trying. That's the disturbing power of an integrated aura. This disturbance often has nothing to do with hostility. It's more subtle. People might fidget, avoid eye contact, or overreact to your opinions. Some may criticize you for being too intense or too deep. Others may admire you from afar, but feel unable to approach. These responses aren't about you. They're about how people feel in your energetic field. The aura as a psychic projection. According to Jung, all human beings project parts of their unconscious mind onto others. This is known as psychological projection. When someone with a strong aura enters a space, their presence often interferes with other people's projections. Most people prefer to deal with life by assigning their unresolved emotions to someone else. They project insecurity, anger, inadequacy, or fear outward so they don't have to face it internally. But when your aura is strong, it pierces those projections. Your authenticity invalidates their illusions. This is why Jung wrote about the danger and responsibility of becoming whole. It disrupts the false narratives others are clinging to. This is especially true in social or professional settings. Your energy may quietly challenge the norms or unconscious power dynamics in a group. Without saying a word, you might be labeled too much, too spiritual, too intense, or too complicated when in reality, you're simply aligned. The more integrated your psyche is, the more unified your energy becomes. This creates resonance or dissonance in others depending on how far along they are in their own individuation process. Shadow integration and the birth of a powerful aura. Let's talk about how this energy develops. You don't get a powerful aura by meditating once a week or saying affirmations. It comes through deep shadow work, a process Carl Jung described as bringing the unconscious into consciousness. The shadow includes all the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide: anger, grief, fear, envy, and even power. Society often trains us to suppress these things in the name of being good. But suppression does not lead to peace. It leads to internal fragmentation. When you engage in shadow work, you begin to reclaim the fragmented parts of your psyche. You confront what you've denied, forgive what you've hidden, and start loving parts of yourself you once hated. As this healing unfolds, your aura begins to stabilize and strengthen. You're no longer carrying chaotic, repressed energies. You've processed them, and this transformation produces a radiant field of presence that people can feel, even if they don't understand it. Jung believed that individuation, the integration of the unconscious and conscious self, creates what he called a self, a force greater than the ego that radiates wholeness. When you reach that state, your aura no longer reflects fragmentation. It emits coherence, and that coherence feels powerful and magnetic, but also unsettling to those who have not begun the same process. How the collective unconscious reacts to strong individuals. There's another layer to Jung's theories that explains this disturbance, the collective unconscious. Jung proposed that all human beings are connected through a shared reservoir of archetypes, instincts, and primal knowledge. This means that your presence is never just individual. It resonates with collective symbols. If you have a powerful aura, it's likely you are embodying one or more Jungian archetypes: the sage, the warrior, the healer, the rebel, the seer. These archetypes carry enormous energy within the collective unconscious. When someone encounters you and you activate one of these archetypes, they are responding not just to you, but to generational patterns that your presence awakens in them. For example, if you carry the healer archetype, some people may unconsciously want to confess their pain to you. Others may resist you out of fear of being seen. If you carry the warrior, you may provoke competition or resistance from those who feel powerless. These are not conscious reactions. They are ancient psychological responses that happen beneath the surface. And this is where the disturbance intensifies. Your aura doesn't just disturb individual egos. It unsettles cultural and ancestral conditioning. You may find that people of different backgrounds, personalities, or belief systems respond to you in oddly similar ways. That's because they're not responding to your personality. They're reacting to your energy signature as it touches the deep mind. Authenticity as a disruptive force. The final piece of this puzzle is authenticity. In a world that rewards conformity, authenticity is rebellion. When you live with integrity, when your thoughts, feelings, and actions are in alignment, you become rare. And rarity disturbs people who have built their lives on imitation. Carl Jung emphasized the danger of the persona, the mask we wear to gain social approval. Most people never remove that mask. But when someone with a powerful aura shows up and doesn't play by the same rules, it threatens the whole illusion. This doesn't mean you're trying to disrupt. In fact, most people with powerful auras tend to be quiet, empathetic, and introspective. But their very way of being is revolutionary. It says to others, you don't have to play small. You don't have to pretend. You can be whole. And that is the most disturbing message of all for those who are not ready to receive it. Part 2, the first 5 signs your aura intimidates or disturbs others. Sign: when people are easily intimidated by your presence, even when you're silent. One of the most telling signs that your aura is powerful is how people react to your presence, not your words. Before you say a single thing, you notice people stiffen, glance at you, fidget, or fall silent. You might hear phrases like, "There's just something about you," or "You have a strong energy," but they can't explain what that something is. That's your aura doing the talking. Carl Jung believed that presence is a manifestation of internal structure. A person who is psychologically integrated, who has reconciled their shadow and embraced their authenticity, emits a powerful psychic charge. This charge isn't aggressive or domineering. It's grounded, focused, and deeply unsettling to those who lack internal structure. Silent confidence threatens ego-based insecurity. When someone who hasn't done the deep work meets a person who radiates stability, they may feel inadequate without even understanding why. They sense they're being seen, truly seen, and that discomfort can make them retreat, avoid you, or become defensive. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to take up space. Your mere presence shifts the energy. You walk in, and people instinctively notice even if you're dressed casually, not trying to stand out. That's not charisma. That's internal power being externally perceived. Sign: 2, you attract both admiration and envy without trying. People are drawn to you, but they don't always stay. Some admire you intensely, while others become jealous or competitive, seemingly without cause. This polarity of responses is a clear indicator of a strong aura. In Jungian terms, you're triggering projection. People look at you and see reflections of their own unconscious desires or insecurities. To those yearning to embody authenticity, you're an inspiration. To those trapped in self-denial, you're a threat. This duality often feels confusing. One person might compliment you for being so grounded, while another accuses you of being arrogant or too intense. Yet you're doing nothing different. The truth is, you're not the problem, you're the trigger. You act as a psychological mirror, magnifying what others are trying to suppress. The admiration is genuine, but so is the envy. People want what you have: inner strength, self-trust, emotional clarity. But not everyone is willing to do the internal work to achieve it. So instead, they project resentment toward you, not because you have wronged them.
Who's coming in the driveway?
But because you remind them of their own disempowerment. Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When your aura irritates others, it's often not personal, it's instructive, but only those ready for growth will see it that way. Signed, 3 people project their insecurities onto you. If your aura is strong, you will become a canvas for other people's inner chaos. Without realizing it, others will place their unresolved fears, traumas, and anxieties onto you. This shows up in subtle ways. Always you're accused of having bad intentions when you were simply being honest. And someone tells you, you think you're better than us? When you've said nothing of the sort, you're blamed for the emotional reactions others have around you. Why does this happen? It's because your energy forces people to feel themselves more clearly. You don't allow people to hide, even when you don't say a word. Your presence is like a spiritual X-ray machine. It penetrates the ego's facade. People feel seen, and being seen is terrifying for those who are disconnected from their authentic self. In Jungian psychology, this is the domain of the shadow. When someone hasn't reconciled their shadow aspects, they offload that tension onto others. And if you're carrying a purified and integrated energy, you become the easiest and most obvious target. It takes discernment to realize this. If you're unaware, you may start to believe these projections. You may internalize guilt or shame that doesn't belong to you. But once you recognize this pattern, it becomes clear you're not the problem. They're reacting to their own pain through you. Your job is to stay grounded in self-awareness. As Jung emphasized, individuation involves withdrawing projections and owning one's emotional landscape. That's the journey you're on, and others may not be ready to join you. Sign, or you experience strong emotional reactions from strangers. Have you ever noticed how strangers open up to you without warning, or conversely, become hostile without provocation? These intense emotional reactions are a direct reflection of the vibrational charge your aura carries. People might share deeply personal traumas minutes after meeting you. You cry or become emotional in your presence, or react with disproportionate irritation or suspicion. This isn't accidental. You walk into their psychic field, and suddenly, something within them begins to unravel. Your aura acts like an emotional tuning fork, resonating with repressed feelings they've buried for years. Jung described the unconscious as the storehouse of all things forgotten, disowned, or rejected. When a powerful aura meets a heavily defended psyche, it stirs the pot, and the result is often chaos, emotional turbulence, unexpected confessions, or even confrontation. Some may thank you for helping them realize something. Others may accuse you of manipulating or disrupting them, even though you did nothing. This is the burden of having a strong aura. You're a catalyst, not by choice, but by nature. The same fire that warms some will burn others, and it all depends on their level of emotional maturity. The key here is compassion. Recognize that their emotional reaction is a sign that something within them wants to surface. But also remember, it's not your responsibility to heal or hold space for everyone. You are a trigger, not a therapist. Protect your energy accordingly. Sign, 5, you're often misunderstood or labeled as too intense. If you've been told, you're too much, you think too deeply, or you're too sensitive, take it as confirmation that your aura does not conform to societal norms, and that's a good thing. The world often rewards shallow interactions and surface-level connections. When someone like you comes along, someone who sees through masks, who speaks from the soul, who doesn't play games, it unsettles people. They don't know where to place you. They might say, "Yes, you're intimidating. You're not like anyone I've met. You're just too intense." That intensity is not a flaw. It's a frequency mismatch. Your aura is operating at a deeper level spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, and most people are not tuned in. You're not too much. You're just in a world that's often operating in emotional poverty. Jung warned about the dangers of conformity. He believed that many people live as a mask, the persona, and never access their true selves. When someone who has broken that pattern shows up, it challenges the very structure of how most people interact. That challenge becomes a disruption. You might be excluded, avoided, or misunderstood, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're refusing to shrink. You refuse to dilute your presence. You refuse to become a shadow of yourself just to make others comfortable. And that kind of self-containment is rare. It is awe-inspiring to the right people and terrifying to those still hiding from themselves. Part 3, signs 6 to 9, your energy shifts the atmosphere. Sign 6, you change the energy of the room just by entering. One of the clearest signs of a powerful aura is that your energy doesn't just fill a space, it alters it. You walk into a room and suddenly, conversations pause. People glance up. The mood subtly shifts. You didn't say anything. You didn't announce yourself. You simply arrived, but your energetic field arrived first. That's the quiet power of resonance. Carl Jung often emphasized that a person's internal psychological state inevitably affects their external reality. The idea here is that energy is contagious. If you walk into a room carrying centeredness, clarity, and emotional strength, you'll unintentionally disrupt the emotional homeostasis of that environment. This can go two ways. 1, elevating the energy. You uplift the space. Ground it, or add a sense of calm. 2, disturbing the energy. Your stability makes others aware of their instability, and they may become reactive or withdrawn. People feel your presence not because you're louder, smarter, or more attractive, but because your energy isn't fragmented. That coherence is rare in a chaotic world, and it's noticeable on a primal level. Even animals sense it. Children often grow unusually quiet or unusually curious around you. That's because the body reacts before the mind understands. Jung called this the influence of the collective unconscious, an ancient intelligence that recognizes depth when it sees it. Even if the conscious mind can't articulate why, this power comes with responsibility. When you walk into a room, you're not just occupying space, you're setting the tone. And that's something people will remember about you long after you've left. Sign 7, you trigger deep conversations without effort. Somehow, people feel the need to open up around you. You may find that
when you can hold your breath for 60, 90 seconds and beyond is when we create the soma from within, which is our own
strangers tell you their life stories. Acquaintances start confiding in you after just 1 or 2 encounters. Even those who normally hide behind humor or sarcasm begin speaking about real fears or regrets. Why does this happen? Because your aura carries a psychic invitation to depth. It says, it's safe to be real here. And in a world full of masks, that's a rare and powerful message. Carl Jung believed that healing could only occur when the unconscious was brought into conscious awareness. And that process often begins with honest dialogue, real, unfiltered, emotionally grounded communication. People sense that you won't judge them, that you have the emotional intelligence to hold complex truths without flinching. Your energy acts as a psychological permission slip. You don't offer a surface-level presence. You offer sacred space, but this has consequences. Not everyone is ready for the kind of vulnerability your presence invites. Some may later feel exposed or ashamed, realizing they said things they've never said before. Others may try to draw you into emotional dumping or use your empathy as a sponge for their unhealed wounds. It's essential to recognize the difference between holding space and becoming someone's emotional landfill. Just because your aura encourages openness doesn't mean you're obligated to absorb or fix anyone's pain. You are not a confessional booth. You are a mirror of truth, and that's a spiritual service in itself. Sign 8, you naturally repel superficial people. You don't have to try to distance yourself from people who are shallow, manipulative, or performative. Your aura does it for you. People who thrive on gossip, attention-seeking, or shallow validation tend to avoid you, or to feel awkward in your presence, dismiss you as boring, too serious, or weird. That's because superficial energy cannot sustain itself around truth, and your aura is an embodied vibration of authenticity. Jung wrote extensively about the persona, the false self we wear to navigate society. Most people live their entire lives behind this mask, curating their identity for others instead of discovering their true selves. But when someone with a powerful, unmasked presence enters the picture, it threatens the whole system. You don't play the game. You don't laugh at shallow jokes. You don't entertain drama. You exist on a different wavelength, and those invested in superficiality sense that immediately. They may try to test you, provoke you, or dismiss you, but underneath it all is a deep insecurity. You represent the path they are avoiding. You remind them that it's possible to live without pretense. And that's terrifying for someone whose entire self-worth is built on image management. Rather than being offended, take it as a compliment. If shallow people are uncomfortable around you, it's because your energy demands depth, and not everyone is willing to go there. Sign 9, people feel drained or energized after being around you. This is perhaps the most misunderstood dynamic of having a strong aura. You may find that some people feel revitalized, peaceful, or motivated after spending time with you, and others feel drained, overwhelmed, or anxious. You yourself may also feel exhausted after certain interactions. Why? Because a strong aura doesn't just exist, it interacts. And those interactions either align or clash with the other person's energy field. Carl Jung emphasized that our psyche operates like a living system. When two psyches interact, there's a subtle energetic exchange happening beneath the surface. This exchange can create either resonance or friction. People who are aligned with their inner truth will feel lifted by your presence. They will experience your energy as affirming, empowering, and even healing. But those who are deeply fragmented, those in denial, shame, or unresolved trauma may experience your aura as aggressive or too much. That's not because your energy is harmful. It's because your energetic field amplifies their dissonance. You may also notice that certain people unconsciously try to drain your energy. These are often individuals who haven't cultivated their own internal light, so they latch onto yours like a battery charger. These are not evil people, but they are energetically parasitic. Jung encouraged us to know our boundaries, not as walls, but as filters. Protecting your aura means being mindful of how much emotional access you give people, especially those who repeatedly leave you feeling depleted. You don't have to cut people off completely, but you must learn how to modulate your light, when to shine it, and when to draw it inward for your own healing. Part 4, signs 10 to 13, the deeper psychological impact of a strong aura. Sign 10, you're often targeted by toxic individuals. If your aura is powerful and grounded, you may find that you frequently attract manipulators, narcissists, or emotionally unwell people. This may seem ironic. Why would someone toxic be drawn to someone so whole? But there's a very specific psychological reason for it. They want your light. Toxic individuals are often disconnected from their own authenticity. They live in shadow, projection, and false personas. But the human psyche is wired for wholeness, so even if someone is fractured inside, they are still drawn, often unconsciously, to people who embody what they lack. This is why, when your aura exudes peace, clarity, wish, purpose, integrity, you become a magnet for those who live in psychological chaos. Carl Jung warned that when a person does not confront their own darkness, they will seek others to unconsciously possess or control. Your aura, being integrated and self-aware, represents what they crave but cannot create within themselves. So instead of doing the work to evolve, some people try to attach themselves to you, dominate you emotionally, manipulate you into self-doubt, challenge your boundaries. It's a form of energetic colonization. They want access to your light because they refuse to build their own. Your task isn't to save these people. Your task is to discern the difference between connection and consumption. Are they drawn to you because they want to grow or because they want to take? A powerful aura without boundaries becomes a target, but a powerful aura with clarity and protection becomes untouchable. Sign 11. Animals and children are drawn to you instinctively. Unlike adults, children and animals don't operate through ego filters. They respond to vibrations, not social masks. And if your aura is pure, integrated, and spiritually aligned, they will sense it immediately. You may notice that stray animals approaching you on the street, dogs wagging their tails or resting calmly beside you, infants staring at you, smiling, or reaching for you, children wanting to sit near you or talk to you as if they've known you forever. Carl Jung often spoke about the archetype of the inner child, the original, untarnished self within each of us. When someone is in alignment with their true self, they radiate an innocence and presence that children and animals instinctively recognize. This recognition is not intellectual. It's energetic. It says, you are safe. You are real. You are trustworthy. It's important to realize that this draw is spiritual in nature, not simply emotional. In Jungian terms, you're embodying aspects of the divine child or the caregiver archetype, energies that radiate nurturing, harmony, and protection. People who are lost in ego games may not value you, but animals and children, those closest to pure instinct and spirit, will. And that's often the most honest validation of your soul's integrity. Sign 12. You're extremely self-aware and spiritually grounded. The more spiritually grounded you become, the more neutral your energy feels and the more disturbing it becomes to others who are not grounded. This is a paradox. You've likely experienced this. You're calm in chaos. You speak slowly when others are shouting.
8,000. That's how many men have found freedom from the P word through Unchained Leader.
My name is Tommy Say. Today I'm one of the head coaches at Unchained Leader, but 2 years ago,
You're still while others are fidgeting. You don't react impulsively even under stress. To someone who thrives on noise, drama, and chaos, this is not comforting. It's threatening. Why? Because your inner peace reminds them of the inner war they're losing. Your stillness becomes a mirror to their restlessness. Your lack of reactivity confronts their addiction to stimulation. Carl Jung emphasized the idea of psychic integration, a person becoming whole by acknowledging all aspects of themselves, including the dark and light. When you reach this state of internal balance, you emit a kind of quiet power, That power isn't explosive, it's magnetic. People feel it but don't understand it. You're grounded because you've done the deep work. You've faced your trauma. You've questioned your identity. Bisha sat with your darkness, aligned with a higher spiritual truth. Now you walk into rooms not with ego, but with spiritual presence. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to impress. Your energy simply is. And to someone living on autopilot, that isness is alien. They expect performance, noise, false charm. You offer none of that, just truth. And nothing is more uncomfortable than being faced with truth when you're not ready for it. Sign 13, you don't seek approval, and that unsettles others. Most people spend their lives trying to be liked, validated, accepted. But if your aura is powerful, you've likely outgrown that need. You no longer modify your opinions to fit the room. Smile to make others comfortable. Shrink your light so others won't feel small. Apologize for your boundaries. You've learned to validate yourself. You know your worth. You've walked through fire, survived solitude, and found peace without applause. That makes you deeply uncontrollable. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege comes with a price: alienation from the herd. When you don't seek approval, you become unpredictable. You break social norms. You cannot be guilt-tripped or manipulated. To people who rely on control or collective consensus for their identity, your independence is deeply disturbing. It dismantles the illusion that belonging requires obedience. You've stopped looking for permission to be yourself. That alone creates a vibration of power so strong that others feel it before you speak. It doesn't matter if you're extroverted or quiet, loud or soft-spoken, your energetic signature says, I am not for sale. And in a world that commodifies everything, that is terrifying. Part 5, how to embrace and protect your powerful aura. Having a powerful aura isn't a performance. It's not something you can switch on and off. It's a state of energetic integration, the sum of your inner work, self-awareness, spiritual grounding, and psychological maturity. And while it can be magnetic, healing, and transformational to others, it also requires intentional stewardship. This part is about learning how to understand what your energy actually does. Protect your energy field without shutting down. Use your aura for purpose, not pride. Maintain clarity and boundaries in a world that will often try to consume or distort you. Your aura is a tool, not a trophy. First, let's get something straight. A powerful aura is not a prize. It's a responsibility. Jung emphasized that wholeness isn't about superiority, it's about authenticity. Once you begin integrating your shadow, living in alignment, and becoming self-aware, your energy starts shifting automatically. This draws people toward you, opens hearts, and invites vulnerability. But if you're not mindful, that same energy can be misused by others, or even by yourself. This is where spiritual humility is crucial. Your aura is a mirror for others. It shows them who they are, not because you're better, but because you're clearer. You've cleared your energetic field of noise, lies, and dependency, and that kind of clarity is a tool for awakening, not a badge of honor. If you start using your aura to gain admiration, attention, or power over others, it becomes polluted. You shift from being a channel of truth to becoming another mask. That's when the aura weakens and invites karmic imbalance. So your job is to treat your aura like a sacred force, not an egoic weapon. It exists not just for you, but through you. Let it be in service to something greater: healing, insight, transformation, peace. 2, establishing energetic boundaries without closing your heart. A powerful aura often means you become a magnet for pain, people's traumas, wounds, shadows, and projections. If you're not careful, you start absorbing energy that doesn't belong to you. Over time, this can lead to burnout, confusion about your own emotions, and chronic fatigue, emotional entanglements, compassion fatigue. Here's the paradox. You're not meant to close your heart, but you must protect your field. Carl Jung talked often about the necessity of psychic boundaries. Integration doesn't mean openness to everything. It means discernment. Who and what deserves access to your energy? Here are several ways to protect your aura without shutting down. Ground before you enter a space. Before walking into any new environment, especially one you sense is energetically chaotic, take a few seconds to ground yourself. Use your breath. Feel your feet on the floor. Visualize a protective light around you. Decide what enters your space and what doesn't. Filter, don't absorb. You're not a sponge. You don't have to take in everything. Learn to observe energy without internalizing it. Let it pass through your awareness like a cloud seen. Acknowledge, and then release. Set clear emotional boundaries. Just because someone wants your time, your listening ear, or your validation doesn't mean they're entitled to it. You are not a public therapist. Your compassion must be rooted in clarity, not guilt. Disengage without guilt. If someone repeatedly leaves you feeling drained, anxious, or compromised, it's okay to walk away even if they're family, even if they're not that bad. Spiritual self-respect includes knowing when to exit low-frequency fields, learning to say no without explanation. People with powerful auras often struggle with guilt. Why? Because their presence naturally helps others. And when they begin to withhold that presence to protect themselves, they feel like they're being selfish. But Jung made it clear, individuation is not people-pleasing. It's the commitment to be whole rather than liked. You are allowed to and say no without an excuse. Now, cancel plans without guilt. But refuse to give emotional energy to manipulative people. Turn down requests that drain you. Prioritize solitude without explanation. Your aura is precious. It cannot be given indiscriminately, or it will lose its purity. Each time you say no to something that violates your peace, your aura grows stronger. Not because you're isolating yourself, but because you're refining your energy field to resonate with purpose, not people-pleasing. 4. Embrace your role as a catalyst, not a savior. People will be drawn to you. They'll pour out their stories. They'll cry in your presence. Some will project their pain onto you. Others will seek you as a lifeline. But here's what you must remember. You are not their solution. You are not their guru. But you are not their savior. You are a catalyst, a mirror, a vibrational shift. Carl Jung wrote that each individual must take the journey into the unconscious alone. You can offer reflection, insight, support, but you cannot do the work for them. To carry a powerful aura is to accept that others will be moved by your presence. But that doesn't mean you're meant to carry their healing. Empower them, but don't enable them. Guide them, but don't rescue them. You can sit beside someone in the dark without extinguishing your light. Stay rooted in daily practices that recenter your energy. A powerful aura must be maintained. It is not self-sustaining. The more energy you emit, the more self-renewal you need. Here are essential practices that Jung would encourage, though, in his own psychological language. Daily solitude. You need time to detach from collective energy. This isn't loneliness, it's psychic hygiene. Whether it's meditation, journaling, prayer, or simply walking alone, solitude recenters you in your original vibration. B. Shadow work maintenance. Continue to examine your triggers, judgments, and emotional reactions. Your aura is strong because you've done the work, but that work is never finished. The more clear you become, the more subtle your blind spots. Keep confronting them. Inner child connection. Keep nurturing the innocent part of you that still dreams, laughs, and feels deeply. That purity is a powerful source of light. Jung's concept of the divine child archetype points to the regenerative center within us. Protect it. Do embodiment. Don't live in your head. Powerful auras come from embodied energy. Move your body. Feel your emotions. Don't spiritualize your pain, process it. When you're in the body, you're in your full power. 6. Use your aura in service to something bigger than you. Finally, the most important aspect of having a powerful aura: alignment with purpose. This is what keeps you from falling into ego traps, manipulation games, or savior complexes. When your energy field is aligned with a greater mission: healing, truth-telling, awakening, or protection, your aura becomes a channel, not a burden. Carl Jung believed that each person carries a myth within them, a sacred narrative, a path of soul evolution. When you find yours, your energy becomes magnetically meaningful. You stop performing. You stop proving. You simply exist with intention. A powerful aura without purpose becomes overwhelming. But when channeled toward a higher vision, it becomes revolutionary. So ask yourself, what does my energy naturally want to do in this world? What kind of presence do I want to offer? How can I use this aura to protect, awaken, inspire, or comfort? Your light is not an accident. Your vibration is not random. And your discomfort with the world, it's a signal that you're here to change it, not conform to it.
Getting a lot of pulling in my ankles.
Leg cramping, throbbing. I'm constantly in pain. And the doctor says...
Okay, so there we go. That was the first one. Is there any?
We all know that digital computers change virtually every
Hold on a
aspect
second.
of our life.
Now for something completely
Well, the
different.
arrival of quantum computers could be even...
Sorry.
I thought that was interesting, but I don't know that it's what Jung would ever say. I just want to say that.
Right.
But I thought there was a lot that was insightful.
Is there the Egyptians had this notion of your soul was the Ka, but your aura was the Ra. And different people had different Ra, different auras. That's what came up when in studying. Mary Magdalene went to the temple of Isis to study, and that's where she picked up this stuff. So, is there anything like this in Buddhism, Bruce? I can't. Is there a notion of an aura?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I've lost you here. Oh, for sure. I mean, I've known a few individuals who can actually see people's auras quite clearly, and there's an intuitive understanding they have of them. I don't know, like I don't know anything about a strong aura, though. I'm not too sure what that means. I mean, my teacher was a very powerful presence. Well, I wouldn't necessarily attribute to his aura. I mean, he had awareness of the depths. Like when he looks at anyone, he sees their karmic history right up front. You know, like things like that. He understands the mind in depths so deep that he actually knows already what the person is really all about and what their problems are and all kinds of things, simply because he has that open awareness. So
Yeah. I mean, I personally have had several people within a relatively short period of time telling me their life story. You know, that was what I was. This guy claims that Jung said that was because you have a particular type of aura, but you know,
I've had that happen a few times. I'm assuming it was just because they thought I was compassionate or something like that, just naturally. Like it's just like not that extraordinary. It just happened, you know. It's happened a few times. That's because they see you as compassionate.
Yeah.
Or you know that you're interested.
I mean, that's what Ron. Let's see, my son couldn't see auras, so he said most people have 3 layers of aura. I have 5. So I asked Ron, what are the other 2? And Ron said, oh, one is for science and mathematics, and the other is for compassion.
Oh, there you go.
So he didn't even miss a beat. He just immediately said that. So
right. Well,
I rarely see Bart lose his temper. Very rarely. I lose mine a lot. But he's extremely patient and compassionate.
Yeah, well, it's I mean, there are some very profound levels of awareness and compassion. I mean, I've seen a few people who have it. Wow, you know, it's like
right.
They're not ordinary people at all, you know.
No.
Not necessarily intimidating though.
Right.
Right.
Okay, let's.
I thought this was the whoever prepared the videos interpretation more than Jung's. I just
Yeah.
don't want to say, I don't think.
So here's a different one. This one is a little shorter, so here we go.
Why do people fall in love with you? Have you ever wondered why certain people are drawn to you so deeply, almost irresistibly? Is it really about your personality, your looks, or your charm, or could there be something much deeper happening beneath the surface? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that love is not random. In fact, people fall in love with you only for two profound reasons, and both are rooted in the deepest layers of the human psyche. In this video, we will explore Jung's fascinating ideas on love, projection, the anima and animus, and why people are magnetically pulled toward you, not for who you appear to be, but for what you represent in their inner world. We'll dive deep into the unconscious forces that shape romantic attraction and reveal the two profound reasons why someone truly falls in love with you. Reasons that go far beyond surface-level qualities and instead reflect the hidden architecture of the human psyche.
Hey everybody, my name is Chaz, this is my wife Autumn, and about 12 years ago when we got married, Autumn was dealing with a lot.
Before we begin,
Yes.
make sure to subscribe to the Mental Dose channel and join our Telegram community, where you'll get early access to new videos and insights on personal and spiritual growth. Now let's get started. We often like to think of love as a magical accident, a spark that ignites without warning. Yet for Carl Jung, even the most sudden attraction follows a deeper order, an inner logic crafted not by chance, but by the unconscious. What feels like a spontaneous connection is rarely spontaneous at all. It is the visible result of invisible forces, shaped by years of inner development, unprocessed emotion, and unmet needs. Behind every instant bond is a structure, a silent architecture of the psyche, that guides us toward certain people and not others. And this is where Jung introduces the idea of projection. Each of us carries hidden images within, fragments of who we are, who we were, or who we long to become. These images are often repressed, denied, or lost in the shadows of our unconscious. But they don't disappear. They wait, and they speak to us through others. When we meet someone who resonates with these inner fragments, we feel drawn to them in a way that seems mysterious, even magical. But it's not them we're seeing. It's a part of ourselves reflected in their presence. Imagine a person who has spent their life being cautious, reserved, maybe even fearful of emotional exposure. When they meet someone bold, expressive, and unapologetically free, they may feel captivated. That feeling is more than admiration. It's resonance. That other person embodies something dormant within, a potential that's been buried under years of suppression. The attraction is real, but the true force behind it is the unconscious, responding to what it needs in order to evolve. The same is true in reverse. Someone might fall in love with you not because of your visible traits, but because you unknowingly represent something they lack. A trait, a quality, an emotional tone they've been unconsciously searching for. You become the missing piece, the living symbol of a part of themselves they have not yet developed. Reason 1, you represent something they lack. It's not simply about opposites attracting, it's that opposites reveal what is missing. A rational person may be drawn to someone deeply emotional. An introvert may fall in love with an extrovert. A structured soul may be fascinated by someone chaotic. But this admiration can easily slip into dependence. If the person does not recognize that what they admire in you is something they could nurture in themselves, they may cling to you not out of genuine love, but out of unconscious need. And as soon as that need changes, or as soon as your humanity disrupts their idealized image, the attraction may fade. This is the danger of projection. It creates an illusion of connection that often cannot withstand the truth of reality. And when the illusion breaks, the love built on it begins to collapse. Jung didn't stop at projection. He took this even further with his concept of the Anima and Animus, archetypal images of the opposite gender that live deep within the psyche. For Jung, every man carries within him an unconscious image of the feminine, his Anima, while every woman carries within her an unconscious image of the masculine, her Animus. These aren't random preferences or cultural roles. They are inner figures shaped by our earliest relationships, especially with parental figures, and by the collective symbols of femininity and masculinity inherited from culture, myth, and the human psyche itself. Over time, these archetypes become emotionally charged blueprints. We carry them unknowingly, and one day we meet someone who seems to fit them perfectly. When that happens, the attraction can be overwhelming. There is often a deep sense of familiarity, as if we've known this person forever, even if we've only just met. It can feel like destiny, soul recognition, or some ancient memory reawakened. But Jung would caution us, this is not fate. It is not evidence of cosmic soulmates. It is the psyche seeing its own internal design reflected in another human being. Reason 2. You awaken a powerful unconscious image they've carried within. You resemble the unconscious image they've carried for years. Maybe not in looks or behavior, but in essence. You activate an internal pattern that stirs powerful emotion. And that's why the connection feels immediate and irrational. It's not about you. It's about the symbol you've become to their inner world. But here lies the problem. When someone falls in love with an inner image projected onto you, they're not really seeing you. They're seeing a fantasy, a sacred idea, a psychological construction. You become the screen for a projection that was written long before you arrived. And as soon as the real you begins to emerge, your flaws, your contradictions, your human nature, the fantasy begins to crumble. What once felt divine becomes confusing. What once felt perfect now feels complicated. Conflicts emerge. Disappointment follows. The illusion collapses under the weight of truth. This is why so many passionate relationships begin with euphoria and end in chaos. They weren't based on mutual understanding, but on archetypal projection, an unconscious script trying to play itself out in the real world. But no human can live up to an archetype forever. Before we continue, I truly hope you're finding this video insightful. If so, don't forget to share it with anyone who might benefit from these ideas. And if you'd like to support the Mental Dose channel and the work we do, you can leave a donation by clicking the thanks button just below this video. Your support means the world to us. Now let's continue. Despite the pain and confusion that projection often brings, Jung did not see this as failure. On the contrary, he believed it was an essential part of our growth. Love is not just an emotional experience, it is a tool of transformation. Every person we fall for becomes a mirror, and what we see in them is what we need to see in ourselves. Some people reflect our hidden potential, others expose our deepest fears. Some awaken our creativity, others our insecurity. But all of them serve the same psychological purpose: to accelerate the process of individuation, the journey of becoming whole. When someone falls in love with you, they may believe they are seeing something magical in you, and they are. But the magic lies in what you awaken inside them. You are not just a person, you are a symbol, a turning point, a psychological invitation. And the same is true in reverse. The people you fall in love with, especially the ones who shake you, who change you, who break your heart, they are not random. They are carriers of meaning, catalysts for your inner evolution. Some people come to awaken what's dormant in you. Some come to teach you what you've refused to learn. Others come simply to show you your own reflection, distorted or clear, depending on how ready you are to look. Not all of these relationships are meant to last. Some are meant to disrupt. Some are designed to break patterns. Jung called these encounters synchronistic, events that are not logically connected, yet deeply meaningful. When someone appears in your life at a precise moment, and evokes powerful feelings. It may not be coincidence. Your unconscious and theirs was ready. And the meeting itself was a sign that change had already begun. These are not mistakes, even the painful ones, even the ones that leave scars, especially those. So, why do people fall in love with you? Because you either reflect something they desperately need, or you activate something they have forgotten. In both cases, the love is not really about you. It's about the self trying to evolve. And the same is true for you. You fall in love with those who mirror your missing parts, those who resemble your inner images, those who, knowingly or not, carry the key to your next chapter of growth. But if you don't recognize these patterns, you risk staying trapped, attracted to the same types, repeating the same relationships, chasing the same illusions. You might believe you're unlucky in love, when in fact your unconscious is simply trying to teach you something you're not yet ready to learn. Jung would say the answer is awareness. Once you understand your projections, your inner figures, your patterns, you stop looking for someone to complete you. You start becoming whole within yourself. And from that place, love transforms. It's no longer based on fantasy or fear. It becomes real, grounded, free. Because in the end, the deepest love is not about finding the perfect person. It's about awakening the parts of yourself that have been waiting to be seen. You don't just fall in love with others. You fall in love with the version of yourself they help you uncover. Understanding love through Jung's lens reveals that it's never just about the other person. It's always a journey back to the self. So the next time someone falls in love with you, or you feel that deep pull toward another, ask yourself, what part of the soul is waking up right now? If this video made you reflect on your own experiences with love and connection, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe to Mental Dose for more deep, thought-provoking content about psychology, relationships, and the inner world.
Okay, don't judge.
Okay. I was just curious to look up because of all of this work on genetics that's been done. There are 23 of these chromosomes that are in each of us, and in particular, the 23rd chromosome is the one that has either the X and Y chromosomes make up a male, and the Y and Y chromosomes make up the female. Now, what's interesting to me about this is that they then looked at each of the X and the Y chromosomes, and they're each made up of genes, which are, again, clusters of proteins. So there's 231 genes in the Y chromosome and 900 in the Y. So.
Oh, you just said why.
No, I got it back. Hold on.
Good to have a proofreader on the team.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, it's the Y has 231 and the X has 900. But when they looked at those to see, since this all has to do with sex, supposedly, they could only identify out of the 231, maybe 50 or so that had anything to do with sex. And in the 900, it's like 70. So the sex side of things is it just shows how little we know about this stuff. Okay, that can't even figure out what it means to be male and female. It's there staring us in the face, but we don't know how in the world to make sense out of this. So, and
I think they're uncovering new ground in the openness nowadays of trans people with a transgender identity, but they're discovering there usually is, something deeper at work for those people whose identities are different from their
Right.
the basic summation of their gender. But it often seems easier to adjust their body to their inner identity than the other way around. But I don't think they should, I think they're more mutable. I don't think they're mutable things for life. But they're,
Right.
I'm just saying that there's new ground being discovered. And usually these people do have unusual configuration.
Yeah, here I just tried this AI agent, okay? So it came back and said the human X chromosome contains 900 to 1400 genes. The Y chromosome has 50 to 100 genes. So these things conflict one another. When I look around on the web, I get different numbers for these things. But the thing that was discovered was the people thought that genetics was immutable. You couldn't change it. And then they discovered that the genes could change. And so they came up with the term epigenetics to describe this. So it could be that you start off very much pushed, say, toward being a boy, and then over time you evolve in the epigenetic side to become more female, or whatever, or vice versa. So none of these things seem to be fixed. The cellular structure evolves to accommodate all these things. So,
yeah, and they're more interactive than
yeah.
it was thought to begin with.
So that was another video. Now let's try, see. Just wanted to do one more. Yeah, this one here looked interesting.
I wanted to just say, for me, I think the healthiest thing that I see, and in looking at clients' charts and things like that for relationship, is that it should be a balance of a feeling of something new and stimulating and learning and growing from, and something that feels familiar and comfortable, and that those are considered to be the healthiest relationships. And I met Bart in a serious way. We'd known each other for 20 years. I was 62. And he felt extremely familiar right away. And one of my first thoughts was how much my parents would love him. And that wasn't the kind of thing I went for when I was younger.
No.
And that these things can and do change and evolve over time. And the identity we have, with an archetype changes. And I think I've been moving away from being, sort of enmeshed in a healing archetype and not wanting that kind of interaction anymore. And I'm thinking about going back to my old work now. So it's something I'm examining a lot and thinking about, well, how can I reframe it so that it's not the way it used to be. It's not the same dynamic that started to feel very limiting.
Sure. Okay. Here we go.
Asked, am I truly? A huge testimony for the Jewish people, and it's fairly well known. that truly living the life I want, not the life that others expect from me, not the one that seems right in the eyes of society, but the one that genuinely resonates with my soul. Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers in modern psychology, left us with a lesson that few dare to follow: the importance of choosing yourself, even when everything around you seems to push you in the opposite direction. We live in a world meticulously designed to distract you, to keep you trapped in routines, expectations, and an endless stream of obligations that seem unavoidable. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with external demands: work, family, responsibilities, social norms, all dictating how you should behave, what you should strive for, and even what success should look like. But here's a truth that many refuse to acknowledge. Every time you prioritize others over yourself, you are sending a silent message to your inner self that it does not matter, that its needs, desires, and truths are secondary. You are ignoring that quiet voice from deep within your subconscious, the one that persistently tries to guide you toward a more authentic and fulfilling life. Jung believed that our connection with the unconscious is not something optional. It is an essential part of who we are. Yet so many people silence it, push it aside, and choose to ignore its signals because facing it can be uncomfortable. That feeling of unease you experience when something in your life doesn't feel right, that is not random. That is your soul speaking to you, trying to show you that something needs to change, even if the mere thought of change terrifies you. Now take a moment and reflect. How many of the decisions you've made recently came from a place of true authenticity? And how many were driven by fear? Fear of disappointing others, fear of stepping outside the norm, fear of discomfort, or fear of breaking away from what is familiar? Jung urges us to deeply contemplate this because he understood a universal truth. Decisions that are not rooted in your inner truth create nothing but chaos and disconnection. The further you stray from yourself, the more lost you will feel. But let's clarify something important. Choosing yourself does not mean rejecting others. This is not about living in selfishness or disregarding the people around you. It is about recognizing that, in order to give the best version of yourself to the world, you must first be at peace with yourself. This is the fundamental principle of self-love, a concept Jung explored in depth. Self-love is not a luxury. It is not an excuse to escape responsibilities. It is the foundation upon which all meaningful and authentic relationships are built. When you choose to prioritize yourself, something profound shifts in your energy. You begin to attract people and situations that are aligned with your true essence. It's as if the universe responds to your decision to live in truth, eliminating what no longer serves you and bringing forth what you truly need to grow. But to reach this state, you must first confront your shadows, the parts of yourself that you have ignored, suppressed, or feared. Jung described the shadow as the hidden aspect of our psyche, the one that contains everything we would rather not acknowledge about ourselves. And while facing your shadow can be uncomfortable, it is within this confrontation that true transformation begins. Because when you integrate your shadows, when you stop fighting against them and learn to accept them, you unlock an inner power you never imagined you had. This process of integration does not happen overnight. It requires courage, patience, and an unwavering commitment to understanding yourself. But what you gain in return is invaluable: clarity, the ability to see beyond the illusions you once believed in, purpose, a renewed sense of direction and meaning in your life, inner peace, a calm so profound that no external chaos can shake it. You gain the ability to say no to what does not align with you, without guilt, without fear, and without worrying about the judgment of others. But most importantly, you gain the freedom to be who you truly are. You might be wondering, how do I begin this journey? The answer is far simpler than you think. Start by listening to yourself. Every time you feel discomfort, uncertainty, or a surge of emotion, pause and ask yourself, what is my unconscious trying to tell me? Because, as Jung once said, the answers you seek externally are already within you. You just need the courage to listen and the determination to act accordingly. One of the hardest things we do in life is listen to our intuition, especially when it leads us down a path that challenges everything we've built. Maybe it's a relationship you know is no longer working. Maybe it's a job that drains you, but feels impossible to leave. Maybe it's a dream you've been chasing simply because it seemed like the right thing to do. Jung reminds us that ignoring these signals is not a sign of strength. It is a denial of our true essence. To choose yourself is to have the courage to let go of what no longer resonates with you. And that is not always easy. We cling to the familiar because change is terrifying. We convince ourselves that better the devil you know than the one you don't. But Jung challenges us to see change not as an ending, but as a doorway, a passage to a more authentic version of ourselves. So think about this. What are you holding on to that no longer serves you? What relationships, beliefs, or habits are you maintaining out of fear? You may feel that letting go of certain people or situations would be a loss, but the real loss happens when you sacrifice your inner peace just to hold on to something that no longer has meaning. The choice is always yours. And perhaps the most important question you can ask yourself right now is, am I ready to truly choose myself? Choosing yourself is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of profound love and deep respect for who you truly are. For too long, society has conditioned us to believe that prioritizing ourselves is wrong, that putting our needs first is somehow a betrayal of the people around us. But the reality is quite the opposite. When you finally make the conscious decision to choose yourself, something truly magical begins to unfold. It's as if a fog that had been clouding your vision starts to lift, and for the first time in a long time, you see things with clarity. The people who genuinely support you remain by your side, while those who only drained your energy, those who never truly valued you, start to fade away. And this is no coincidence. It is the direct reflection of an internal transformation, an alignment between your inner world and your external reality. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, the mysterious yet undeniable connection between your thoughts, emotions, and the circumstances that unfold in your life. When you begin to live in alignment with your truth, your external world shifts to mirror that transformation. It is as if the universe responds to your authenticity by reshaping your environment to match it. However, this process requires something that many people find difficult: radical honesty with yourself. Choosing yourself is not just about making bold decisions or setting firm boundaries.
When I do tune in energetically, I like to have the person say their name a few times, and that's enough for me to...
Sometimes it also means acknowledging uncomfortable truths about your past. Perhaps you have made choices that were not a true reflection of who you really are. Maybe you have allowed people to overstep your boundaries, sacrificing your own well-being to please them. You might have said yes to things you knew you should have rejected out of fear of disappointing others. But here's the important part. This is not a reason to judge yourself. Instead, it is an opportunity, an invitation to learn, to recalibrate, and to make a different choice moving forward. Jung believed that authenticity is not a destination. It is a continuous journey. It is a process of learning, evolving, and growing into the truest version of yourself. And on this path, you will face resistance. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when old habits call you back, tempting you to return to familiar patterns simply because they feel comfortable. But remember this: true growth never happens within your comfort zone. The most profound transformations occur when you dare to step beyond the familiar, into the unknown. The world will not always understand your decision to choose yourself. There will be people who criticize you, who question your choices, who even distance themselves from you because you no longer fit their expectations. And yes, this can be painful, because when you choose yourself, you stop seeking external validation. You begin to realize that your worth is not defined by what others think of you, but rather by what you believe about yourself. This does not mean that you must isolate yourself or disconnect from those around you. Quite the contrary. When you choose yourself, your relationships evolve in ways you never imagined. You no longer chase approval. You seek genuine connection. You no longer settle for shallow interactions. You crave relationships that nourish your soul. And in this process, you discover something beautiful. the right people, will always be there. Not because they need you, but because they value you exactly as you are. As you begin to live from a place of authenticity, the world around you transforms. This is not magic, nor is it some kind of trick. It is the powerful interplay between your inner and outer worlds. Jung often spoke about how our psyche projects our inner state onto the external world. If you live in internal conflict, you will attract external conflict. If you reject yourself, you will encounter rejection in various forms. But if you choose yourself, if you fully accept and embrace who you are, you will begin to see how the people and circumstances around you also start to shift. This transformation does not happen overnight. It is a process, and like any process, it requires patience and commitment. There will be days when you feel like you are taking steps backward, moments when your old tendencies try to resurface. But this is where the real test lies: your ability to stay firm in your decision to choose yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels lonely. The world glorifies sacrifice. But at what cost? Not everyone will support your choice to prioritize yourself. We live in a world that glorifies sacrifice, where giving everything to others, even at the expense of our own well-being, is seen as noble. But what happens when we pour from an empty cup? What happens when we give so much that we lose ourselves in the process? Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary, because only when you are whole, when you are aligned with your truth, can you truly give to others from a place of abundance rather than depletion. So dare to choose yourself, not just once, but every day, not just in the big moments, but in the smallest of decisions, and watch as your life begins to transform in ways you never imagined. But Carl Jung taught us something profoundly important. We cannot give what we do not possess. If you sacrifice your happiness, your energy, or your inner peace in an attempt to please others, then what you are offering is not authentic. And sooner or later, that imbalance will manifest itself in your life, whether through emotional exhaustion, dissatisfaction, or even a sense of emptiness. Take a moment to reflect on your current relationships. How many of them inspire you, uplift you, and bring you peace? And how many leave you feeling drained, confused, or emotionally depleted? Jung invites us to ponder this because our relationships are not merely social connections. They are mirrors that reflect our internal state. The people we choose to keep close are reflections of the beliefs, values, and emotional patterns that reside within us. If you find yourself allowing someone to repeatedly cross your boundaries, it is not necessarily because they are bad, but rather because a part of you has not yet learned how to protect itself. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-love. Jung believed that the unconscious mind is constantly working to guide us toward our well-being, but more often than not, we ignore its signals. That sense of exhaustion you feel after interacting with certain individuals is not a coincidence. It is your unconscious telling you that the relationship is not in alignment with your true essence. And if you continue to ignore these signals, the price you will always pay is your inner peace. Choosing yourself means setting boundaries, not as walls that shut people out, but as bridges that lead to healthier and more authentic relationships. When you say no to what does not serve you, you are simultaneously saying yes to your truth, your dreams, and your well-being. This does not mean that you should sever ties with everyone, but rather that you must be honest with yourself about which relationships nourish you and which ones drain you. As you begin to live from this place of authenticity, something extraordinary happens. Your intuition strengthens. That inner voice, which once seemed faint or uncertain, starts guiding you with greater clarity. You begin making choices that not only make logical sense, but also feel right deep within your soul. This is the power of choosing yourself. It reconnects you with your intuition, with that inner compass that has always been there, waiting for you to trust it. Jung described intuition as one of the purest forms of connection with the unconscious. It is that inexplicable knowing, that feeling in your gut when something either feels right or does not. But to truly hear it, you must silence the noise of the outside world. This means letting go of the need for approval, detaching from societal expectations, and learning to trust yourself. Because at the end of the day, No one else can truly know what is best for you.
So why do I start things and never finish them? It's all due to something called law of sustainment. In psychology,
When you decide to choose yourself, you are sending a powerful message to the universe. I am ready to live in alignment with my truth. And the universe responds. Suddenly, you begin to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with who you truly are. This does not.
I think we just, this seems to be more of the same. So I'm just going to end it. And, but you get the idea. To me, it was amazing how close that is to what Jesus of Nazareth preached, that God is within you. And you have to love yourself before you can go ahead and love others. But
right.
For me, it brought up how much, for me, the pandemic has been kind of welcome respite. It wasn't, painful isolation for me. It was liberating. And I think it brought me into greater authenticity with myself. And I think I liked seeing everyone as quiet as they were. And, just like driving on the thruway was a more pleasant experience because it wasn't so crowded. And people came back to, the full-on interactive mode with such a vengeance, with so much aggression. Driving is, startling to me. It's so aggressive. It's just, we're living now. People are literally driving off the road or driving, somebody was apparently glanced down at their cell phone at just the wrong moment and drove into the back of a Mack truck. Just all by themselves and broke a wheel off the Mack truck, but otherwise didn't damage it, but the car was smashed to smithereens. And I don't know, it brought out a lot of what I was longing for and not really, as I felt this video was saying, but putting it front and center was that I wanted more of a connection with nature. I wanted to spend more time in solitude and in nature and with my immediate growth partners who I'm blessed to have as my family at this point, including Bart. And a lot of the other social interaction I was having felt kind of like an obligation more than really nurturing. And that I wanted a quieter life. I wanted more introspection. I wanted more time to read, as I said, to be in nature. And that it gave me permission. And I think it did that for a lot of people. I think there was a real silver lining that a lot of us didn't really recognize behind the pandemic that I hope we can bring back in a balanced way, in a conscious way, and that we don't need that kind of drastic, upset to have a reset, to have permission to withdraw from the clutter and the kind of automatic pilot that we were on with social obligations. And but I think a lot of people are. I think it was liberating for a lot of people to be able to work from home, but some found it too isolated. But
I think a lot of people enjoyed walking.
yeah,
They were walk by themselves, and that really got them into learning more about themselves and nature by walking around.
Right.
So
yeah, I think for me, it was a really good reset and reminder of things that I want to prioritize. And I think it's unfortunate that we need that to have, give ourselves permission to do it. And lots of times I think we get the flu or something like that because of that, because we we need that time out, and we're just not willing to take it without some kind of other permission.
Yeah.
And I hope more people I think more people are looking at it that way, and Zoom has created a different kind of intimacy and connection, and that came out of the pandemic, and as I'm saying, a different kind of hopefully relationship with solitude, and that it doesn't have to be a negative isolation. A lot happens in solitude that can't happen in community or connection.
So that does it. We've got something else for all the rest of the weeks of the summer, Bruce. So we're into August already. So, but we're also, I just looked. We're up to, hold on. And our YouTube channel.
Well, I hope this gives people a different sense of Jung and his
Here it is.
accessibility.
347 subscribers, and they've looked at 54,000 views of the different videos there. There's 332 videos right now. So tonight will be the 333rd. So there you have it.
333?
Yeah.
Well, that's a cosmic number.
So we'll see you next week. Have
All
a
right.
joy. Stay cool.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.